You guys, I think it is 100% safe for me to say at this point that everything we've encountered thus far throughout the 2022 NBA free agency has been very entertaining to say the very least. But from everything we've encountered throughout this offseason, from the NBA draft to trade requests and even free agency itself that is well underway, not one team has stuck out to me more, even with such minimal moves that they've actually made so far this offseason, than what the Boston Celtics have already done. Because honestly, if you've been living under a rock since the offseason actually began, or even if you've been keeping up with all of the breaking news that has been flying around over the last couple of days, I personally feel like there is not only so much more to dissect about what these moves mean for the future of the Celtics, but also what they could still do before the 2023 season actually begins. One sec though guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like the video if you do enjoy, subscribe, and turn on those notifications to never miss another NBA video. Love you guys. And for those of you that do, believe me, I cannot thank you guys enough, because according to my numbers, over 95% of you guys coming back to actually watch the content haven't even subscribed yet. So again, thank you, but anyway, let's get back into the Boston Celtics, who even though have only made 2 relevant moves in this offseason thus far, are not just sitting right now as arguably having one of the best offseasons out of any team across the league, but also seem to monumentally improve in ways that honestly many people across the league probably didn't think were possible. And just in case any of you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will briefly bring everyone up to speed with the moves I'm discussing, as the C's pulled off what I would say 95% of the NBA world considered a fleece in their trade for Malcolm Brogdon from the Indiana Pacers, while also acquiring Danilo Gallinari in free agency on a 2-year deal that filled up their mid-level exception. And to get back to the Malcolm Brogdon trade, and I am 100% serious when I say this, if anyone would have even suggested the layout of this trade on social media before it actually happened, you would very likely be called insane for even thinking that it's a possibility, which is why so many people think that it is a fleece. And after the first day of free agency passed by, with the Celtics just kind of sitting in the background and not really doing anything, the idea of getting Gallinari at just $6 million a year while essentially only giving up a first-round pick to acquire Malcolm Brogdon, and replacing Aaron Nesmith and Daniel Tice with these two in what now can be considered the deepest rotation in the NBA today, if it wasn't already prior, is something that I think all Celtics fans were dreaming to accomplish this offseason. But the biggest question that everyone's been asking is, are these two necessarily going to be the perfect fit into what the Boston Celtics are trying to improve on? Well, let's try to dive into that. And starting with Gallinari, it's no surprise, and there's very clear reasons why so many different contenders across the league were trying to push to sign this man once he hit free agency. And for a guy like him who is coming off of a season in Atlanta, putting up around 12 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists per game, and also shooting over 38% from 3 on around 5 attempts per game, it seems very easy to predict that Gallinari's offensive ability and shot making are going to fit seamlessly into what Boston's trying to do. However, on defense, it's not necessarily the same story. Now, I'm not trying to say that Gallinari is an awful defender, I'm just going to say that he's not really considered a two-way player. And with this being the biggest cause for concern of Celtics fans, I will say that I am also a huge believer in the skill set of a team having a huge impact on a possible player coming in. Like in this situation, we have Gallinari going from one of the worst defensive teams in the league last season to one of the best defenses that we've seen in the league in quite a while. And if you think that that's not going to have an impact on how Gallinari plays on defense, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. And also in terms of your front court defense, I know it's very clear to everyone that you're going to be returning Al Horford and Robert Williams this season, but there's also been rumors flying around with sending out Tice that the Celtics are pursuing another defensive-minded front court player, and some of the biggest names I've seen in these discussions include players like Hassan Whiteside, Thomas Bryant, or even Demarcus Cousins. It's just crazy to me to think that the Boston Celtics Celtics still have the ability to add another player like this, and I know a lot of you have had your eyes on Thomas Bryant over the last week, so if they're actually able to add another player to the rotation like this, the defensive worries about a front court containing Gallinari are just going to be trimmed even slimmer. But now, to transition into their biggest and most crucial acquisition in Malcolm Brogdon, we saw many different people across the NBA world immediately question how it was going to work with both Malcolm Brogdon and Marcus Smart in the same rotation together. And if you're someone who thinks that this combination is going to somewhat make Marcus Smart feel out of place going forward in the next season, I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but I personally disagree. Because Malcolm Brogdon is someone that I think both the Celtics front office and Celtics fans themselves have been dying to acquire for a very long time. And this was due to ultimately what was one of the biggest reasons for the downfall of the Celtics last season, which many of you could probably guess before I even mention it, but of course, it was turnovers. And with Brogdon finally being added into this rotation, it's going to do the team wonders simply in the sense that they finally have a clear-cut playmaker. And I'm not trying to say that Brogdon is one of the under-the-cover best playmakers in the NBA, but having someone of his caliber to take the pressure off of guys like Tatum, Brown, and Marcus Smart is going to be huge in certain situations. And for someone like this, who's coming off a season putting up averages of 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists per game, while it was only in a span of 36 games, it's clear that Brogdon is going to be able to help in many other different areas of the offense and defense as well. Because while it's very clear through the numbers that he can score, people also forget that he is one of the last 3 players in the NBA to have a 50-40-90 season. But in my opinion, what the craziest thing is that I've heard since this Brogdon acquisition occurred is that reportedly the mindset right now is that Brogdon is set to be the 6th man for the Celtics rotation in the 2023 season. Now at first, this might have seemed like a surprise, but the more you think about it, the more sense it makes. Because with all of the success they saw running this last season, you can see why they want to continue to throw out a starting 5 that includes both Al Horford and Robert Williams in the front court. And along with this, I mean, just the idea in itself of having a player like Malcolm Brogdon being your first option off of the bench, while it's also very clear he's going to get starter caliber minutes in the process, is something that is going to terrify opponents going into that matchup. Because with a bench like this, it's going to be pretty difficult for any other team in the league to top the depth that Boston currently has. And again, like we already mentioned, it's scary to think that the Celtics still have room to work with in this offseason. All in all though, even if they were to stop right here and now with their 2022 offseason, I think it's safe to say that they get an A+. But of course, with everything we've already mentioned, I am extremely curious to hear what you guys have to think about this. So please let me know in the comments, what do you think is going to make the biggest difference from the acquisitions that Boston's made thus far? And also, what moves, if any, do the Celtics still need to make before the offseason concludes? But again, you guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to go down below and leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and of course, subscribe while you're down there. We still have a ton to discuss from this offseason. We have Summer League right around the corner. We have trades that we're still waiting on to finally happen. We have so much content coming out in the next couple of weeks, you guys, so just believe me when I say it, you do not want to miss out. But also, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every one of you guys for watching. I appreciate all of you more than anything. You all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.